Previously, we set up hotkeys to show collisions and to grab screenshots in our game, and we talked a little bit about those setups and that we had hard coded them to some very specific keys. And one of the problems with setting them to those very specific keys is that, for example, we used the C key for show collisions, and we used the I think it was the P key to take a picture or a screenshot. Works okay on our computers, but if we move this game to a console, we don't have a keyboard on it, and we can't do that. So we could map additional functions to the setup, and let's go have a look at our code. So in our code, we were in the third-person content blueprints, and we were modifying the third-person character blueprint, and we added these two lines, and we said watch for the enhanced input discussion. Well, this is the enhanced input discussion. Right now we have the P key being pressed, and if we wanted to, say, use a game controller, for example, and map one of the face buttons to it or the D-pad button to it, we could, and this gets really messy. We could right click here and say face button, and look through here and say game face button up, left, or down, or whatever. So we'll say face button top, and when it's pressed, we could go here, and then we're on a PS5 controller, so then we need another one for that. Well, there's a much better way to do this, and that better way is this enhanced input section discussion. So I'm going to remove this comment and this comment. We're going to have our enhanced input discussion. I'll show you a bit better way of doing hardware abstraction for sort of user interaction and keyboard interfaces. So this is the third person character, and if we look around here, we have the original input mapping, and this is receive input control. Then we have the enhanced input action, IA look, IA move, and IA jump. Input action, IA, and then in this case, jump. So as you recall, the character jumps when we press the space bar. Well, there's nothing right here. Oops. There is nothing right on that node. Let me bring that blueprint up again. There's nothing on this node that says it's using the space bar. So this is all done through the enhanced input section. This started with version 5, and it was optional in version 5.0, and then they started phasing it. Now it's the default, this enhanced input section. And if we go back to our template, remember this third-person folder was created with part of the original third-person template. We're going to open that, and in here we have, an input section. The input section has this IMC default. This is a configuration file, and then there's these actions. So I'm going to open the actions, and here we'll see those three main actions that we were looking at: IA jump, IA look, and IA move. These are basically events, and if we look at this, remember, event nodes are typically red, so this is when this action is triggered, go do something, and here we're jumping or releasing the jump. And here we're moving around, and in this one we're moving the mouse and looking around. But this is the event node. This particular item here is the definition for it. So in our previous discussion where we set up those hotkeys, we really would like to have a hotkey configured for doing a screenshot and for doing the show collisions that wasn't hard mapped to a keyboard key, but could be used through this enhanced input system. And then, when we move to controllers and stuff, we simply have to add the controller input to the action. We don't have to go in and reprogram everywhere where we inappropriately hard-coded these things. So let's look at the C key here and say the show collisions. If we were going to create an action for this, it would simply be something like IA show collisions. So in here, I've in the third person folder, input, actions, we're going to right click and say input action here. And we're going to say create a new input action, and we'll go IA underscore show collision. There's not a whole lot in here. If we look at any of these, if we look at the jump one, we'll have simply set up as a digital boolean, on or off. We're not going to change ours just yet. We'll change it in a minute. But if we open our IA collision, you'll see that it's configured pretty much the same. So there's nowhere here really to define a key. Where we define the keys is up one level in this IMC default. So if we open IMC default, we can see we have three actions: IA jump, move, and look. I'm just going to expand the jump one because we were talking about that, and you can see that IA jump has a little keyboard symbol and a space bar, has a controller, and says game face button bottom. So on the Xbox controllers, that would be the A key down here in the bottom. And if you're using it on a touch device like a phone or something, tapping the screen one touch would give you the jump function. So all three of these physical actions by the user, pressing the space bar, hitting the bottom, hitting the A button on the controller, or touching the screen on a touch device would all cause a jump. If we wanted to add a new action, we could go here with the plus sign. It would give us a new action. We could set a new device and just keep selecting through here and then say, we're going to do it on let's say we do it on a mixed reality device, and we're going to do it on the thumbstick down. Then that would simply add that as another input option for jumping on this character. Whenever this game was ported to a mixed reality device like a HoloLens or something like that, the left thumbstick down would cause the character to jump. And it's that easy to add an action to the jump. So we're going to remove that. So these were the three actions that we had. If we wanted to add an action that we just created, this IA show collision, under mappings, we're going to add an option here. And now you can see this bottom one says none. So we're just going to expand that, and we're going to pick our show collision. Expanding that one, you can see it's already set to the keyboard. I can search through this and pick what I want. So I could go keyboard, C key, or if I just click on it, you'll see it's turned amber. And then if I press the C key, it's going to learn the C, the amber's gone, and now IA show collision is going to be mapped to the C key on the keyboard. And if I wanted to map it to one of the face buttons, like the B key or something like that, I could simply, with this open, I'm going to add a new mapping, and here we're going to click and change until we get to the gamepad, or we can select gamepad and pick it from here. And what did I say? Face button down. There's your D-pads up and down. Face button bottom, I think, is the A key, and I wanted the B, so that's the face button right. So now hitting the B key on the controller is going to do this show collision action for me once we program it. But now I have this action called, so we're going to do a save here for the mapping. We have this show collision action. And if we go into our third person character, where we had C, we can simply do an IA for input action underscore, and you can see we have our IA show collision as an event, and we're going to connect that in here, and I'm going to disconnect the C key. So now when somebody triggers the IA show collision, it should run our show collision command. So we're going to compile this, save it, come back to our game. And when we play here, if I do the C key, you see I'm getting the function, but you'll notice that it's shaking or shimmering because I'm getting 2 or 3 on off. So it's toggling on and off. If I click and hold it, it just goes kind of funny. So we're going to come back to that in a minute. But you'll see that the C key is, for all intents and purposes, toggling that on and off. And if I grab my controller, you see I'm getting the same thing here. I'm getting a little bit of bounce on it. But it is turning on and off. So now I've got 2 different ways to do the triggering, and the code itself didn't have to change. This was the old hard-coded way, which we don't like, because for every different input, we would have had to add one of these everywhere we mapped this. In this case, we can do the mapping in this abstraction layer in IMC default and pick as many keys as we want in here to represent the show collision action. Uses enhanced input to allow multiple device inputs to trigger event. Okay. So how would we do this for the P key? If we wanted the P key to do our screenshots, I'm going to go ahead and delete this one. Oh, sorry, we didn't finish the shaking. I mentioned that it was shaking or bouncing. And if we look at our show collision, it has here a show collision. Since it's a digital bool, we're just going to expand this, and we're going to say pressed. When this button is pressed, trigger it. And that's going to help debounce that shaking that we saw. So if we save this, come and play our game, and now when it's pressed, so I'm not getting that shake or that key repetition that we were, and that should also apply here. So that one input control is now fixed for both of our setups, whether I'm using the controller or the keyboard. So that was under our IA show collision. We just expanded the triggers, left it as digital bool, but said only trigger when it's pressed. And if we start to expand these, there are further parameters that we can start setting. So here's a threshold for how long before it re-triggers. We did our mapping of the buttons that we wanted to control the show collision in the IMC default. So let's do the P key that's going to trigger our print shots. It was P, so we're going to want P, and then maybe we'll use the A key or something on the game controller. So the first thing we'll do is go into our input actions folder. We're going to right click and say new input and input action, and we're going to say IA underscore screenshot. We're going to open this one. We probably know that we're going to want to do that same debouncing, which was to make sure this was set to digital bool, and then we're going to expand the triggers, and we're just going to say on pressed, and that's going to help stop the bouncing that we saw where it was triggering multiple times. In IMC default, which we got to from third person input IMC default, and it's already open here. We added an action, so under mappings, we want to add another key mapping or activity mapping here. So we're going to add a mapping, and you can see this one is set to none, so we're going to expand it, and we're going to say IA screenshot is the action. It always opens these on me, we don't need it. So here we have IA show collision, which we don't need either. It's open, so we have IA screenshot. We're going to open that. We can drop down here, pick everything that we want, or we can click on the keyboard. It's gone amber, and if I just hit the P key, it's going to take whatever key I hit next and map it, so it's mapping the P key. If I want to add another mapping, I should be able to set this to gamepad. And set it to gamepad face bottom, I think it's called. Face button bottom. You can do the same thing. You can set that, and if you wanted to just highlight it, it's amber, and then I'm going to hit this A button, and you'll see it didn't change because I had the right one selected. So let me pick this, and if I just hit D-pad, you'll see D-pad left, but really I want it on A bottom. So just hit A. So now that's mapped. We should be able to save this. We don't need these again. In here, we're going to search for the IA screenshot action. And we're going to connect that. So uses enhanced input to allow multiple devices to trigger the event. So in this case, the IA screenshot action is the P key and the A button on the controller are mapped to it. So I'm going to compile and save this. And if we play the game, if I hit the P key, you can see we still have our indicator there behind me saying it took the screenshot. And likewise, if I grab the controller and press the controller, I should get another one here as well. I'm getting double mapping here, but I'm also getting the screenshot. So this is the enhanced input setup. And we've simply used it for the keyboard inputs. And this is nice if you have multiple keyboard styles or inputs, you can abstract your code from all that just by using these input actions, and then you can deal with, I'm on a small keyboard or a big keyboard, different number of keys, sorry, or I have no keyboard on this particular console, and I have to use one of the gamepad buttons or a console button or something. So you can do all that abstraction in the IMC mapping. So that's the proper way or better way of doing your keyboard mapping in your keyboard events. I know for the boss key, we actually did the hard-coded, and we should then go back in and change the boss key to use this escape key being mapped through the IMC default. So in here, we could do a third-person input action. IA boss key as the example. We're pretty sure we're going to want it debugged or debounced the same way. So it's on pressed. And in our input mapping, we can now, I'm going to close these ones just to simplify the look of the screen. So we have the original three jumps, jump, move, and look. We have our show collision and our screenshot. We're going to add one for the boss key. So it's expanded this one down here. And I'm going to pick IA boss key. And I'm going to highlight the keyboard And I'm going to hit the escape key, and you can see it's filled in escape. So we'll save our mapping. And just like in our game, I can't really test this, so let's go find our blueprint here. And where I mapped the escape key, we probably mapped 2 keys. Which did we map? Okay, I think it was the K key. I'm not 100% sure. Or did we leave it in the blueprint in this one? Yeah, so we left it in the blueprint here. I'm going to break these right now, and we'll actually put them in. Yeah, it was the escape key and the K key, and we did this because we couldn't test the escape key in the editor because it already exits the game, playing game. So we used the K key just as a demonstration. So I've broken these. And we put them in the third person character. Why would we put them in the third person character and not leave them here in the level blueprint? So the answer to that is that we want them to happen on the player all the time. If they're just in the blueprint here, in the level blueprint, they will only happen for this level. So this one was fixed, and they've been moved to the third person character, or are being moved to the third person character. So in here, we're going to, if we wanted to replicate that, we could put the escape and a K key in here, but really we want to do this with the enhanced input section. So we have the new action that we created, IA underscore boss. And what we were doing there was just doing a hard quit. So here again, uses enhanced input. I'm just copying the color value here. So the comments are the same color. Just if you're visually looking at this, it'll help you help trigger this particular discussion about enhanced inputs. So we have the boss key, we have it set up for the escape key, and we said we also wanted one for the K key because we can't really use the escape key in the editor. So here I'm just going to highlight this and see it's amber. I'm going to hit K. So now for the boss key, the escape key and the K key should both trigger just like it did before. Here we had the escape key and the K key. Did save all. Now let's play, and if I was running around, obviously the escape key will stop, but if I hit the K key, we get our exit. When we were doing our demo, we had it when it was released, and we could make that modification in the action. So that's enhanced input. It abstracts the controller from the actual code, so our code gets to use the single node action. We don't have to have 3 or 4 different inputs to this block of code. And right now this block of code is a single node. But that's our enhanced input discussion.